All right, I'm headed to FlyTampa Las Vegas. Here we go. So I initially planned for this broadcast to begin about an hour ago, and this is officially the second broadcast that I've done since kind of starting up this whole new channel. And the funny thing is I'm really finding each time I do a new broadcast just how difficult and complex live streaming really is, and how many things just do not work when I'm trying to get everything going. So starting a broadcast is not just as simple as hitting a play button and going. There's like a lot of little things in the background that all need to work together, and when one thing doesn't work, the whole thing kind of comes crashing to an end. Okay, that was weird. What happened? Everything just went black. There we go. All right. So yeah, every little thing that happens kind of has me freaking out a little bit. So I'm really just trying to get back into the groove of live streaming. So it's funny how sometimes things doesn't work, and then I wind up having to take an additional hour when I start an hour before the broadcast just to get started. So I guess the only good thing about this is there's not two or three hundred people sitting around waiting for me to start like there used to be. The word isn't really fully out yet, so that gives me a little bit of time to kind of find my niche again, which is I'm finding is not as easy as it used to be. So it takes a little bit of time. So it is finally Fly Tampa Las Vegas. I can't believe it's actually finally out. And when it was released yesterday, I was actually on a film set, and it wasn't until I finally got home, because you're not really on your phones when you're out there. So it wasn't until I got home and pulled up my email that did I see everything start to hit the fan. I didn't realize it was already out. So I can already tell you, I've spent a lot of hours last night just kind of touring the scenery. I did find quite a few errors, and I emailed Emilios with a few of the issues that I found thus far. Simple things, nothing really big, but I'm sure they're already taking a look at them now. So, but one of the first things that you'll notice about the scenery, I have all my clouds, well, I shouldn't say turned off. I initially had them turned off, but right now I think I'm just using the cirrus clouds. And you can already see the dust storms there in the background, which is a really cool feature. That's something that is really synonymous with FlyTampa, these little dust storms. I remember when they first did them in Dubai, and I found it quite shocking because I started off just with all clear skies, and I couldn't figure out why is it like what's going on with my visibility. Why can't I see very far? I had like unlimited visibility. My clouds were off, and naturally I hadn't read the manual. So I couldn't figure out why am I having these visibility issues flying into and out of Dubai. And then I remember that was one of the things that they showed off with the previews, is that you have these random dust storms that kind of blow through the scenery, and you can adjust the effectiveness of these dust storms by depending on how your wind settings are. So if you have low wind settings or no wind settings, then what will wind up happening is these dust storms will kind of just hang around because there's no wind to blow them out. So the more wind you have, the better clarity you get, because they are actually affected by the wind, which is pretty amazing. So there are a number of features in this scenery that are really impressive that I don't think I've seen in an FS scenery before. So I could be wrong, but yeah, I think there are a few that I haven't seen in a scenery before. So we'll be taking a look at that. So right now we're kind of moving along the outskirts, and one of the first things, actually, since I'm already over here, because we'll take a look at the surroundings before we get into the airport. But one of the most important things that I went looking for the second I loaded up the scenery, and I was so impressed to see that it was there, and I'm just kind of coming up on it now, is the Fry's Electronics building. And I really wondered. I said, I wonder if these guys put the large Fry's building in the scenery. And as it turns out, they did. I was really, really impressed to see that they included it. So I'm actually moving up on the Fry's Electronics. If you don't know what Fry's Electronics is, it's something that's really popular. I think really in the Southwest, West Coast. It's just an electronics store. Um, I think the most popular electronics store is Best Buy, but the difference between Fry's and Best Buy is really they really hang on consumer electronics. By the way, there's a large slot machine. Every Fry's location has a theme to it. So the one that's closest to me in Manhattan Beach, which is about maybe 5 miles from where I live, that one is a kind of like a Tahitian Hawaiian theme, where you go inside and the whole thing is like you're on an island, but it's like several islands in one. So you've got like Easter Island eggheads and all kinds of stuff all over the place. That's kind of the different themes. There's one in Burbank, just outside of Burbank Airport, and that one has kind of a like an alien sci-fi theme, which has a big alien spacecraft that's crashed into the building, and you've got jeeps outside and all these little like World War, I guess you'd say like World War II style maybe, or kind of military guys out there attacking the aliens, and then you get on the inside, and there's aliens and the other half of the spacecraft that crash into the building, and then on the far wall there's a large kind of octopus-like alien that's busted through the wall, and the wall's crumbled, and they do a lot of interesting things. So the one for Vegas is right outside. There's a large slot machine that's scrolling. It's pretty amazing. It's this huge slot machine that you walk into that we saw there. But yeah, Fry's is not like Best Buy. Fry's is probably the last computer store around where you can go in and build a computer from scratch. You can't really do that from Best Buy. They sell everything pretty much prepackaged, but you can pretty much get anything you need in Runroof from Fry's. And I have to imagine Fry's is probably feeling the pain from Amazon, because a lot of us now, get our stuff from Amazon, whereas before Fry's used to be the number one store. So I know the one in Manhattan Beach isn't as good as it used to be. I'm not sure about the other locations, but for the most part, Fry's, if there's anything you need that's electronics associated, Fry's usually has it. They don't carry camera equipment anymore, though. So I think they are starting to feel that Amazon burn, just like everyone else. I kind of wonder how much longer they're going to stick around. So one of the biggest things that I was most curious about when the first previews were shown was how many landmarks would really be in the scenery. My initial thoughts were that they would do just the strip, and then once it came out that they'd be doing the entire city surrounding Las Vegas. That's when I really got curious, because Vegas has a lot of local landmarks and casinos, and there's only so many that you can put in the scenery, to be honest with you. There are only so many, and I noticed that there were a number of casinos that weren't there. Like here, you can see here coming up on our 12 o'clock, you have Palace Station Casino, but I didn't see the Sunset Station Casino, which is east of the airport. So I didn't notice that one. So there are a few that are there and a few that aren't. You notice some buildings here look pretty dark. And actually, I'm going to pause the simulator here just for a second. Because they aren't actually dark. It's just P3D shadows. So if I move that here, then you can see a lot more of the details. So it really just depends on where the sun is. That kind of determines how well you see some of the details on these buildings. So that's just one of the P3D things here. Somebody's texting me. Okay, so yeah, as far as the strip is concerned, everything was really included, which is amazing. And if you're wondering if the night lighting looks impressive, believe you me, it is extremely impressive. So I've gotten a few emails from a lot of friends of mine, and they're already hailing this as the best scenery that they've ever seen. So that definitely says a lot. This definitely reminds me of obviously FlyTampa's Dubai, as I mentioned earlier. Both of these sceneries are out in the middle of the desert, but the difference between Vegas and Dubai, and why I can already tell you why I like the Vegas scenery better. Dubai is an impressive feat just in and of itself, and the same goes for Hong Kong or the Kai Tak scenery, which is an old scenery now, but it really doesn't feel that way. I mean, the Kai Tak scenery really could have just been released yesterday. The only part or aspect of that scenery that I think shows its age is just the airport itself, which really doesn't require any updates because, let's face it, anyone flying into that scenery is only flying in because of the approach, and departure. And I can be honest with you, I don't think I've ever done any full stop at the airport, engine shutdown. I'll land and then I'll back taxi, take off, and come back again. That's really the great thing about that airport, or really about that entire scenery. So the airport itself was never really the big deal of that scenery. It's really, at least for me, speaking for myself, it's always been the surroundings. But you fly through the city, which makes it, I think, most impressive, is you really do fly through that city. Whereas Dubai, you're really doing a quick approach over the Gulf, or coming in from the south, and you get to see the buildings on the horizon for the most part, but you don't really get to fly around them unless you're really in a helicopter because of how Dubai is sort of laid out, which is along the coast. So you don't really, unless you get a helicopter, you can't really see from one end of that scenery to the other, which, by the way, is really massive. I can see some of these buildings, though. Okay, as I turn my eye point, I can see some of the buildings here kind of come and go out of textures. So right now, my frame rates are not the best. I still need to upgrade my GPU. So I'm really putting a lot of pressure. This 1080 that I'm using, it was never really meant for prepared version for a 4K screen and streaming prepared version for all at the same time. So I'm really reaching the limits of this GPU. So I'm hoping to upgrade it by summer. But it looks smooth enough that I can still stream, and so that's why I'm kind of just going for it. Gotta be honest, I've never actually been down to this part of Vegas before. I keep saying one day I'll go down here, but I so rarely visit Vegas. In fact, my first trip to Vegas wasn't until, I want to say it was around 2007. And this is when I came for my job interview to go fly with MaxJet. And you think, kind of being born and raised in California, that I would have been to Vegas many times, but no, I haven't. I made that first trip in 2007, and then after I got the job, I was crew based in Vegas, and so I wound up moving here. It was short-lived because the airline eventually went bankrupt, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun living here, and the funny thing is I had only actually been down to the Strip area, I think, once or twice. Living here and only having been there about twice. And the part of Vegas, ooh, am I going to crash or what? There we go. And the part of Vegas that I lived in when I was here was an area called Seven Hills, which at the time, just before the stock market crash and everything else, back when Vegas was the fastest growing city in the country, I lived in an area called Seven Hills, and it was, at the time, it was a brand new neighborhood. Like, it was literally just desert. About probably a year and a half before I moved over there. And Seven Hills is a part of Henderson. It's like an extension of Henderson that extends out towards the executive airport, which is where I took off from. So it was nice because the apartment complex that I lived in had only been there, I think, 8 months before I moved in. It was all brand new, and I think I was actually the first person to move into the apartment unit. I had a nice 3-bedroom apartment. It was about 2,500 square feet. It was a huge apartment. Granite countertops, balcony. There was a golf course kind of surrounding it. Had a two-car garage. and I think I was paying like $1,300 a month for that place. Can you believe that? I mean, $1,300 a month for this like luxury apartment in the Seven Hills region of Henderson with a view of the executive airport. So you could grab some binoculars and see the business jets kind of coming and going. Surrounded by a golf course. I think we had like 7 pools. I mean, the place was just amazing. This place that we lived in. So I did share with one other crew member, so we did split, but we had this huge apartment, and it was basically like living by myself because I only probably saw my roommate maybe once or twice a month because we were always on trips, and when we weren't on trips, we were traveling. So it was really amazing. It was great, and I only probably spent collectively maybe a week out of the month there. So a lot of fun. So here's another feature of this scenery that I want to show you is look at these cars. What is going on down there? This is really interesting. These cars interact with each other. Look at this. They go around each other. I'm assuming they were stopped at a stoplight. Look at what's happening here. This car just stopped. Don't you love when people do stuff like that? Now look at this asshole. He just stopped right in the middle of the intersection. Ooh, what happened there? I think they piled up too much and it had to reset itself. So there's some sort of algorithm going on with traffic, which is really interesting here. Now, mind you, I didn't actually read the manual to see what the explanation is in terms of what they've done with this traffic, but it's like this traffic has a mind of its own. And if I were to stick around here and hover for long enough, you see them doing some interesting things. That taxi cab just kind of stopped, and that car is going around him, and he changed lanes. This is really a trip. This traffic that they have, and now they've all stopped again. You can see them; they're all bunching up again, and they're going around each other. They're trying to go around each other. So I think we can credit FlyTampa as being the very first developer to model asshole drivers in Flight Simulator. I don't think we need that much realism. It's just incredible. But the level of detail here is just astonishing. And this is what I love about FlyTampa, because what FlyTampa has essentially done here is they've given us a lot for very little. If I look at, for example, and I don't, I think everyone who knows me knows how much, I'm a fan of Orbix. But, Orbix released Gold Coast scenery not too long ago. They released the sort of a cityscape for Gold Coast. And they released Gold Coast Airport. I'm not sure if they released them both at the same time or separately, but one of the things you'll notice is that both sceneries are sold separately for a different price. And I think collectively, both of those sceneries probably cost what just Las Vegas here alone costs. What kind of disappointed me about the Gold Coast city scenery, the airport is fine. It's not super great, but it's a decent rendition of Gold Coast Airport. What kind of disappointed me between the two, and I'm pretty sure they were probably developed by different developers, I'd have to go back and check, but I have been to the Gold Coast, and I did a drive down there from Brisbane, which with Australia's really slow speed limits, which is like on average 60 kilometers an hour, which is like, 40 miles per hour, something like that. It took me forever to drive from Brisbane to the very southern tip of the Gold Coast. But being a person who really loves architecture, if it's one of the things that I always make it a point to be aware of is architecture. I love architecture. And so one of the things that I was most excited about visiting the Gold Coast is seeing a lot of these buildings, which, to be honest, it looks kind of like Dubai. It looks almost exactly like Dubai. With all of these high rises and skyscrapers that they're building down there. And so when Orbix released the Gold Coast scenery, one of the things I was most looking forward to was, seeing all these buildings being modeled. But that really wasn't the case. I think there was maybe like one or two buildings that, were sort of like photoreal representations of their real world counterparts, similar to what we see here in Vegas. And then that was it. The most were really just kind of generic buildings. So that was kind of a disappointment because for the price, you're not really getting realism. And do I think anyone should buy it? Well, I think anyone buying the Gold Coast Airport should have the city scenery because first of all, the photoreal is great. You get that realism because it kind of looks like Miami. In fact, I think there's a part of the Gold Coast that's called Miami, and I think they call it South Beach. They try to give it that sort of Miami-like feel to it. And the good thing about it is when you're approaching the Gold Coast Airport, and this was one of the many flights that I did from Flightbeam's New Wellington, is when you're flying into the airport, you do get that very realistic feel of seeing those buildings out on the horizon. The default Gold Coast doesn't really give it that feel. So you need the third-party scenery to really get the feel of the Gold Coast from the flight deck. You're not really going to see just how detailed these buildings are in real life when you're flying into the scenery and flying out of it, but from a perspective of from the flight deck, you do get that feel. You see the shapes of the buildings, which is fairly accurate. But once you grab a helicopter and you get close to those buildings, it doesn't really, you lose that realism and that accuracy. So I was a little bit disappointed in that case. So and looking at FlyTampa. And I'd probably also add Javietsky Design. Flight Simmer, what was that? Flight Simmer 67. Hey, I've got someone watching this time around. I thought I was talking to myself. I've gotten really good at talking to myself. Welcome aboard, buddy. I didn't think anyone was watching. Where was I? Oh, Javietsky Design. And they're getting into cityscapes. I remember when they released that first Miami. Do you guys remember that? That very first Miami senior city. Look at those cars piling up over there. This car traffic is just such a trip. This is so weird what's happening over here. And they all disappeared. So I think what happens is when those cars pile up on top of each other, I think eventually they all disappear like aircraft AI traffic does. I'm assuming that's what kind of happens there. Anyway, if you remember Javietsky's Miami scenery that they released a million years ago, scenery was originally done by a developer. His name was Junior Puente, if I remember his name correctly. And this guy, he had a development company. I don't remember the name of his development company, but he was developing models. It was one of those developers where they show you a bunch of models and then they disappear and you never see them again. Is this the UNLV campus? I think it is. And you never see them again. Well, that was the case with this guy, and this kid was really controversial. I mean, I'm going pretty far back here. I think I'm going back to like 2009, I think. But this guy was really controversial. He had sold a number of assets when he finally realized that he wasn't going to make good on any of the stuff that he was promising, because he announced a bunch of stuff, Key West and Miami Airport and this whole Miami city scenery. Oh, that was weird. And this whole Miami city scenery. I wonder why buildings are disappearing as I pan out. That's not good. Emilios, where you at? So anyway, he announced all this stuff, and then after like 8 months or so, he found that he wasn't able to make do on any of these promises that he made. Now, if you go to the FSDT forum, you have to search far enough back. Umberto might have deleted a lot of these posts, because basically what he did was he used the FSDT forums as a means to promote his work. And obviously you can imagine how one developer might not feel too crazy about that. And but anyway, when he went in there announcing his work, a lot of people kind of leached onto a lot of those posts, and a lot of people were excited that they'd finally be getting a Miami airport scenery. And then I know he got into it with Virtuali a few times, and a lot of these posts just became like a complete nightmare. So anyway, he wound up disappearing, and I remember there was a lot of stuff back and forth between him and Dominique of Air Daily X, and It was a whole mess. But eventually he wound up just backing out and selling a lot of assets. So some of the assets he sold to Latin VFR, which was his Key West scenery. So if you go back to the very first Latin VFR Key West, that was this guy, Junior Puente. I think it was called Intersim or something. I don't remember what it was called. It was so long ago. It might have been Intersim. And then, so he sold the assets to Ricardo of Latin VFR, and then turns around and then accuses Ricardo of stealing the assets. I mean, the whole thing was just insane. The rest of the assets he had sold to Javietsky Design. If you've never heard of Javietsky, you might pronounce it Derzicki or Derziewicki. The guys who were doing that amazing Chicago cityscape, by the way. So anyway, Javietsky bought that scenery, and then they bought the assets from him, and then they released the Miami cityscape, which I beat the crap out of that when I did my review on Air Daily X all the way back then, whenever the hell that was. That was a long time ago. But I wound up beating up on that scenery, and essentially all it was they just bought the assets and kind of re-released it. It wasn't very good at all. And then Javietsky moved on to, years later, of course, they moved on to, is that like a floating roof? Just kind of sitting there, it is. They moved on to New York. And I remember, because on the old Air Daily X blog, they came under a lot of heat. People were accusing them of using Google SketchUp and blah, 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 blah. The New York City scenery, and I'm hoping that they go back to it, because there's a lot of new skyscrapers there that was not there at the time that they released the scenery initially. So I'm hoping they go back and add a lot of these new skyscrapers. But a lot of the buildings and stuff there are not really textured. So I'm hoping they go back and do that. Then they moved on to Seattle and completely moved away from the entire modus operandi of Miami and New York, and really just every building that they put in the scenery has just been amazing. And I'm sorry, Seattle. Did I say Seattle? Seattle. So if you don't have the Seattle scenery from Javietsky, definitely get it. It blends in quite well with FTX. Is it? I think that area is FTX PNW, and it works quite well. I don't have any real issues with performance or anything like that. And of course, they add all of the local Boeing airports and all that stuff. So if you don't have it, I recommend it. If you love flying around the Pacific Northwest, I highly recommend it. It is an amazing product. The only reason why I'm coming down here to this eastern side of the scenery, as you notice, there's a couple of terrain issues here. There's one here off to my right. There's another one off to my left over there. I did talk to Emilios about that. And the only reason why I'm pointing it out is because if you notice it in your scenery and you might go and start beating up on the FlyTampa forums, I might address some of it now. Within Flight Simulator, there are a number of areas within just the default FS9 code, and yes, I'm going all the way back to FS9 because a lot of what you're seeing here, I believe, are conflicts with the old FS9 code that was carried over to FSX and then carried over to P3D. So if you had the FSDT version of Las Vegas, one of the things you'll notice is there were always a bunch of terrain conflicts, and this predates FTX Global and Vector and all that stuff. This predates all of that. And you remember that you probably had to go in, and this goes back to FS9. And actually, there were no Orbix products in FS9. So, but you always notice that there was always some kind of plateau issue. And in order to fix the elevation issues with Las Vegas Airport, you had to go in and make a lot of edits. And all you were really doing was taking a problem at Vegas Airport and pushing it further somewhere else. So people would say, well, yeah, okay, Vegas is fine now, but now I'm getting these huge, like, spiky mountains or somewhere outside of Las Vegas. And that kind of comes with the code of P3D. This time around, we do have Orbix, Vector, and I don't have Vector installed, but I do have NCA. And I think NCA does expand a little bit out toward the Vegas area, if I remember correctly, and global and stuff like that. So essentially, you see this seam here. And essentially, what the team has had to do is push a lot of these elevation issues outside of the coverage area. Now, I spoke to Emilios yesterday. They're still working on trying to minimize some of those issues. So it's still a work in progress. So you can definitely expect that there will be more updates to the scenery as they continue to work on that and try to minimize that effect as much as possible. But if you have the FSDT Vegas, and Umberto has, or Virtuali has mentioned this as well, is in order to fix these corrections with Vegas, is they had to basically take a number of these issues and push them further away. So you might fix the initial problem, but then the problem would be created somewhere else. If you had Flight Zone Portland and Flight Tampa Seattle back in the day in FS9, stop biting your tail. My dog is sitting there biting his tail. I don't know what he's doing. But you'll notice that there were always terrain conflicts in FS9 between Flight Zone PDX and Flight Tampa Seattle. And if you wanted to correct the issues at PDX, and it would create terrain issues in Seattle and vice versa, it was really weird. And it was just this weird way that Microsoft coded this stuff. It's really weird. Luckily, we don't have those issues in P3D, so the developers have figured out a way to iron that out. But in terms of Vegas here, you can see where you do have those. So if you do happen to notice that in your scenery, just note that what I'm giving you is kind of a basic explanation of what's happening there. And just to give you an idea that Emilios and the team are still trying to find a way to kind of minimize that effect that you're seeing over there. So that's just kind of a heads up and an FYI. But getting back to Juvitsky Design, so now they're working on Chicago, and they just released some really, really impressive updates. And along with those, or along with the scenery of the city itself, they are also, I think, adding airports as well. I'm not sure if they're light airports or fully modeled airports, but they tend to add airports as well to those sceneries. So it's something that they clearly understand, that when you develop an airport in a major city like this, people also want the city to be included as well. I'm not going to the airport yet, so what I think I will do is I will switch to night lighting, just so that we can see this, because once I get to the airport, I'm not going to work my way back to the city. Now, Emilio said not to do it this way, but I think as long as I apply the time, it should work. And depending on what time of day you fly, they have the Bellagio fountains and the what do you call that thing? The volcano there at the Mirage and all of that will go off at their time. So I have an email here from him that tells me when all that stuff goes off. So I'll try to show it if I can. Let me see. Someone is texting me. Let me just say this is important. Ah, Javier from Motion for Simulators. Yeah, that's a good point. He raises some good points. So yeah, people really like. I think they like to see these large cities outside of the airports, and this was one of the things that I noted in the Flightbeam Wellington live stream that I did. I'm actually going to go inside the helicopter here. Let's see. This was one of the things that I pointed out in the Flightbeam Wellington, because I thought that, or at least I felt that, it would have been great to see Flightbeam add a Wellington cityscape to the airport, because I can only imagine Flightbeam doing a cityscape would just be unbelievable. Most people tend to compare Flightbeam to FlyTampa, or many people do anyway. Many might argue that those are, among the elitist developers in the business in terms of their scenery development technique and texturing applications and features. But FlyTampa, if it's one area where they went up Flightbeam, it is definitely in the realm of adding these large cities to a scenery. And I remember Virtuali, when he released Vegas, a lot of people were really disappointed that the Strip would not be included. And that's really unfortunate, because you can't have an airport like Las Vegas and not have the Strip. even if you don't include the entire city, you have to have the Strip. I mean, it is literally the first thing you see when you fly into Las Vegas. It's the first thing you see when you fly over it. You know, if you're going from LA to New York, you always know when you're flying over Vegas because everything is dark. You're flying over, you know, especially at night anyway. I should preface, or I should note that I'm only referring to at night because even if you're at 37,000 feet by that point, you know, it's the only patch of light out on the horizon when you fly over Vegas, and it is bright as hell. So it's the first thing you notice, even when you're doing the road trip to Vegas, and you're still like 20 miles away. You know, you're out in that desert, everything is dark, and all of a sudden you just see the glowing sky. You know, that's how you know you've got about another, 30 minutes to go because you see that glowing sky out on the horizon. How Vegas lights that desert. So if nothing else, having the Vegas city scenery is as important as the airport itself. Let me see, can I turn these on? Why does that keep turning back off? That's a little better. So the fact that FSDT never included Vegas with the airport, that was always my biggest disappointment. That was a huge, huge disappointment. And, they just never saw the point. Naturally, people bought the airport because everyone needed a Las Vegas. There was no Las Vegas airport. So I will say that the airport was very, it was decent for its day. It did come with that legendary FSDT exclusion radius where you had like no autogen outside the airport perimeter. That was always annoying. With almost every FSDT airport, there were these huge autogen exclusion zones. That always drove me crazy. So having the autogen exclusion zones outside of Las Vegas and then not having the Strip, having to only rely on default, that really sucked. And then there was this Italian guy named Andrea. I think Australians will say Andrea and everyone else will say Andrea. But he had this website. Oh, I don't remember the name of his website. It's been a long time. But he did like some Houston city sceneries. He did like Milan. You might be able to find this freeware somewhere out there somewhere. I think he did like Milan and a number of other sceneries. But one of the sceneries that he was working on was Vegas, and he released several buildings for the Las Vegas that wasn't included in the default, just to kind of bring it up to whatever was modern at the time that he was working on it. So around 2007, 2008. So he added, for example, like the Wynn and Encore and the Palazzo and a lot of these hotels that did not exist or does not exist in the default Las Vegas city scenery. So that was great. And then he went back and decided he would do like all of Las Vegas. And that was really cool because, we needed, something to complement that Vegas city scenery, or the FSDT Las Vegas airport scenery, I should say. The unfortunate thing was, and if you actually go on FS Developer and you just search Las Vegas, you'll actually be able to pull up, a lot of the work that he was doing, and he did a lot of work. Unfortunately, I already had this feeling that it would never get released, and it never did, unfortunately, because it was only supposed to be the Strip. So he modeled a lot of the buildings for the Strip, and he was redoing everything from scratch. And then you'd see the buildings being modeled, and it was great. And then you'd see the texturing, and it was great. But then he would like post a picture of like a station casino far outside of the Strip, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, he's really going pretty far. And then the further and further he got, and the bigger and bigger the scenery got, then it was like I was really starting to think, okay, this is never ever going to happen. And then the updates started becoming fewer and fewer and far in between. And I was covering all of these. If the old Air Daily X website was still up and running, you'd be able to see all of the articles that I wrote, kind of covering the scenery. But then it just never came to fruition. And one of the things that I mentioned to Stanislaw Javietsky was that, I think he should consider doing Las Vegas. And he did consider it. And I did put the two of them in touch that maybe he could buy the assets from Andrea and possibly finish them. Um, but you know, I don't think Vegas was really a priority for him at the time. Look at these traffic. Look how this one jackass just stops right in the middle of the freaking street, and everyone's got to. I bet you that's a Prius. That's got to be a Prius. He's just gonna stop right in the middle of the street, and everyone's got to go around him. Look at that. This scenery is starting to piss me off. I'm starting to feel the LA road rage here. But yeah, so that scenery never came to fruition, unfortunately. Taking a look at, and this is one thing that I want to say about FlyTampa's Las Vegas here. As we look at just this one area here. In fact, I'm going to pause it. Oh, does everything pause when I do that? Oh, it does. Okay, never mind. Let's unpause it. I'm going to say this officially because alongside my live streams will also be an editorial review, kind of pointing some things out. But if you don't know how I'm doing my live streams these days, this is also part of my review process. And what I'm going to say right now is FlyTampa Las Vegas is officially the most alive product ever developed in the history of flight simulation. I just want to say that now. There is no scenery or product in flight simulation that comes to life more than FlyTampa Las Vegas. I mean, just look at this. Look at all the work that clearly went into this. I mean, clearly, I think we're looking at probably, what do you call that? Like, what do you call those files that flick pictures around? I can't think of what it's called at the moment. But, I mean, look at this. Look how alive this scenery is. And I would love to see Javietsky go back to New York and do something similar like this for Times Square. But I've never seen a scenery in Flight Simulator that is alive the way that this strip has come to life. Look at all the colors, all the lights, even the traffic, the way the cars go around each other. Everything has been included here. And it feels alive. And I know that this particular scenery is going to be great for helicopter fans because naturally you have the Las Vegas helicopter tours and Grand Canyon tours. And, you know, to be able to fly over this area at night in a helicopter and to be able to see just how alive the scenery is, it is absolutely incredible. It is absolutely incredible. Everything just kind of comes to life here. Oh, there we go. We've got the Bellagio fountain. So I guess I kind of came in at the right time. Look at that. Do they put colors in the fountain now? You know, it's funny because when we were in Vegas last year, unfortunately, I didn't really have any time to go and hang out at the Strip. So I probably would have noticed that the Bellagio fountains now have colors. The last time I was here, there were no colors. It was all white. Look at that. Of course, there's no music. There's no Sinatra playing in the background. Maybe a tip for a future update. So yeah, in order to catch the fountains, whatever the timings are in real life, I think he said that those are the timings that they go off, I think, in the simulator, or you come after a certain time. I can't remember what he said in his email. But look at that. Another thing I'll note is did he water mask this? I can't remember. It looks like it's water masked. That might just be an effect. Look at that, though. That is pretty freaking awesome. So like I just said, folks, this is officially the most alive scenery that I've ever seen. I see there's a couple of comments in the chat down there. John is saying dynamic reflections day and night. I do have the extent. What do you call that? Is it dynamic reflections? I do have them set to on, but they're not set to high. I can set them to high. I'm afraid if I do that, it might crash a simulator. There are a lot of bugs in prepared version 4.5 that still need to be ironed out. let me see. Let me set them to high. Give me just a second. There are a lot of bugs that still need to be ironed out, but I'm going to set it to high, and then we're all going to cross our fingers and hope it doesn't crash, because one of the things I'm finding lately, I'm turning it to ultra now. One of the things that, oh, it crashed. Did it crash? It did crash. Oh, no, it didn't. Oh, okay, there we go. So I think dynamic reflections are set to ultra now. But one of the things that I'm finding lately is when I change any kind of like display settings, let me just make sure it's still on ultra. Yeah, it's crashing the simulator. So I know that. Oops. I know that there are a number of issues with Oculus that was crashing it, and a number of other issues. So I don't know. There are some bugs that I know that they're still trying to work out. But right now, one of the things I find is if I change any settings, any display settings, it does crash the simulator. So luckily that time it didn't crash them, so that's a good thing. So I have this now set to ultra. And maybe the reflections, maybe, let me go a little bit further. Maybe we might see some reflections as I get a little bit lower to the fountain. I don't know if it'll go off again. Maybe it might. But what an alive scenery that this is. This is incredible. This is the Las Vegas we were all hoping for. And I am speaking for everybody when I say that. I believe this is the Las Vegas we were all hoping for. Even more so. Obviously, we already knew that when the scenery was originally announced, we already knew it was going to be badass. But there's one thing of knowing, and actually being able to see it is something entirely different. Now, if memory serves me correctly, and I could be wrong, and Emilios will probably correct me, but I believe this scenery was originally started by Martin. As far as the different developers within FlyTampa, so you have Martin, and Martin, I believe, has his team. I think he may or may not contract people to help him out in certain areas. But you have Martin, you have George, obviously. And I believe George lives in the UK. I think he lives like near Southampton or something like that. I'm not sure where Martin lives. I don't know if Martin lives in Tampa or if he lives somewhere else. I think he lives in Tampa, doesn't he? I'm not sure. And then you have Emilios and I believe Sasha. I have to go back and look at the. What do you call that thing? The manual to pull the names. I believe his name is Sasha, and I think. So what I think happened, because I believe Martin's trademark is these large cities. So for example, like Hong Kong, I believe that was a Martin project. Dubai is a Martin project. And I believe Vegas started out as a Martin project, because remember when, wait, but Toronto was also a Martin project, right? Toronto was Martin's. Montreal was George's, right? I'm trying to get my memory back together here. Here's a home of FlyTampa Expo 2018, right here. Looking good. I'm trying to make sure that I get all this, that I'm getting this right. But I believe after Toronto, I believe Martin then went and started off on Vegas, I believe, because I know a lot of people are always wondering, like, what does Martin do? Because, Martin has had this modus operandi for years not to show previews on FlyTampa. That was always a big thing. FlyTampa used to show previews, and then people would come in and bitch about, oh, this looks like crap, and that looks like crap. And these are people that just didn't really understand that when a scenery has just started development last week, that it's not going to look like it is on the day of release. And so I think Martin just got out of the habit of just not showing previews anymore. George kind of changed that a little bit, because if you remember, like with Dubai and that whole thing about Dubai, like we didn't see Dubai previews until like a week before release. A lot of developers have followed suit with that now. A lot of developers just don't show off a project until it's, about maybe 3 or so weeks away from release. But back in the day, developers used to show projects like, week one of development, and people would complain. And I think maybe that just what annoyed people was probably that they knew it was going to be a long wait. I don't know. Oh, there's a volcano going off there. There we go. Try to come down here and take a look. Boy, this scenery really comes to life. What was I talking about? But anyway, so I believe this scenery started off as a Martin project, and I know one of them will email me and correct me if I'm mistaken. But I believe one of these started off, I believe Vegas started off as a Martin project, and then I think what wound up happening was, I think he turned it over to Emilios and Sasha. I believe his name is Sasha. And these are the guys who did like Thessaloniki and that whole beautiful city that comes with that airport. That's one of my top 10 fave airports. It's so beautiful. Comes with that beautiful city. Copenhagen, also FlyTampa, beautiful city. Amsterdam as well. So these two are just like a dynamic duo. You know, I think Emilios tends to focus more on the airport and Sasha tends to focus more on the surroundings. And that's what makes these guys so great. So if you've never really toured the outskirts of Amsterdam and Copenhagen, you definitely need to. I've done live streams of both of those airports. If you go to the Air Daily X YouTube page, you'll see that both of those live streams are up, and I mean they just do such a magnificent job. So it doesn't really surprise me much, you know, that Martin would hand the scenery over to these guys to kind of complete it. Now that's how I'm remembering it. So I don't know if I'm wrong or not, but that's just how I'm remembering it. Here we have the Treasure Island. I don't know if there's a show that goes on over here. I don't think so. He didn't mention if there's a show that starts here anywhere. But, boy, that just looks amazing. If you've never seen the film Casino with Robert De Niro, go watch that. It really shows what Las Vegas was like back when the mob was running the show, long before the big entertainment companies like MGM and Disney and all that came and took over and turned it into to the tourist paradise that it is today. And here we have Wynn and Encore hotels over here. Let me see, we already passed the Palazzo and Venetian back there. Boy, look, just the way that this whole city just kind of comes to life is just magnificent. We haven't even gotten to the airport yet, and I'm already, what? How far am I into this thing? I'm an hour. I am literally like 59 minutes into the scenery, and we haven't even gotten to the airport yet. Here we have Circus Circus. I think a few people, was it Circus Circus? Where they recently had like a roller coaster accident or something like that. I think some people died or something pretty tragic. I think that happened recently. So we have Circus Circus, a little McDonald's there. I mean, all the little things here are in the scenery. This is just absolutely terrific. What are you doing? My dog is like, stop, no, sit. He's sitting there licking the rail banister on the stairs. Don't do that. That's gross. That thing is full of dust, man. You can get sick. Don't look at me like that. So we have the Circus Circus over here. I mean, look how everything just lights up in this in this scenery. It is just incredible. Let's make our way back downtown. Now, I think they took the roller coaster off the top of that thing, didn't they? I'm glad that I had the opportunity to ride that roller coaster before they... I got to be honest with you. I love roller coasters. I'm a huge roller coaster fanatic. Love Six Flags and all that. I think the reason this building isn't lit is because I think this building is like still... There's a story behind this building if you go on YouTube. I think like every construction company or developer that took over that building went bankrupt trying to finish it or something like that. I think that's why it's not lit up, because I think still no one lives there. Another interesting story, I love my architecture stories. Over in fact, let me go back that way real quick. I'll show you something else. I'll try to impress you with my useless knowledge of architecture here. Let me see, let's go back this way just for a minute. Look how they light up all the hotel signs and stuff. I mean, this is just so terrific. I'm going to come back here because, so when the, what do they call that thing? They call it City Center or something like that. When all this was in development, one of the buildings, one of these new buildings that they built had to be condemned. And I think I saw the building, it's no longer there. I think I saw the building in the photo reel. Even this wheel here is also animated. If you stop just for long enough, you might be able to see it moving here. You can just barely see it moving, but it's animated. Let me see. You might, I don't know if I'll be able to see it at night though. That's the only thing. I don't think I'll be able to see it at night. There is, in the photo reel, so right here where this Aria sign is with that little flame, there used to be another tower there. You can probably just see it. You see this here? That's the roof of the tower that was there before. You can just see the roof. And that was a brand new building, like all these other buildings here on the city center complex, or whatever you want to call it. Ooh, check that out. I didn't notice that before. Let me take a look at this. Anyway, so the building, it was completed, and then they found out somewhere on one of the floors, someone screwed up with the math. So the entire building was uneven. Somebody, one of the contractors, they screwed up with their math, and the entire building was uneven. And so when the building inspectors came along, when they were ready to open the building, they're like, wait a minute. Like, an entire floor here is like sloping upward or something ridiculous. I mean, you'd have to go in and probably look it up online. But essentially, the entire building was like lopsided or something. And so they wound up having to condemn the building, and there was no way to fix it. It was not fixable. So they wound up having to demolish the building. So if you can imagine the money that went into that, they built this tower that was like, it was like a 30-story tower or something. And yeah, it never opened, and they wound up having to demolish it. So now there's nothing there anymore, and I think it was announced that nothing else would be put there. But in the scene, in the photo reel scenery here, it gives you an idea of what date it was, because you know, in terms of the scenery, because you can still see that it's there. There's a few hotels over here that we didn't really get to check the night lighting on. We'll take a quick look, and then I want to take a look at that downtown Vegas area and just check out the night lighting over there, and then we're going to start taking a look at the airport. We're going to finally make our way over to the airport. Kind of crazy. But man, this is just, I am just so blown away by this. And the fact that they gave us this huge city, which I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think anyone out there would disagree. They could have sold the city alone for $30 and people would buy it, and then sell the airport for $30-35 and people would still buy it. I don't think there's anyone that would disagree with that. So the fact that they gave you the airport and the city, and in fact, I'm going to pause real quick. I have to note that, where did it go? Okay. I do have to note that I didn't pay for the scenery. So yesterday when I was busy, and Emilios had just sent it straight to my inbox. So let me see, FlyTampa.org. I just want to see how much it costs, because I actually didn't buy it. I'm curious how much it costs. Let me see, purchase Vegas. Sorry, you can't see what I'm saying. This is $32? Oh my God, this is $32. Okay, I'm going to go full screen again. Come on. Where are you? Why does it keep doing that? Okay, there we go. $32. So, developers, take note that technically this city scenery is only like $14 worth of the entire city, or of the entire package. $32. You get all of this for $32. Oh my God. There's that Palace Station Casino. I spent a lot of time here. That hotel is so gross, by the way. The reason why I say that is because Vegas has not outlawed smoking, and they never will, because the people who like to gamble are also the people who like to smoke. But I remember back during my flying days, before relocating to Vegas, I had to layover. And Palace Station was always the cheapest because you could get a room for like $20 a night or something like stupid ridiculous, and also get the free morning buffet. So they had these. They never, obviously, for those rooms, they didn't put us in the main tower. These little buildings here that you see off to the left, they're like, it's like a motel, and that's where they put you. If you bought the $20 a night room at the Palace Station, don't get me wrong, the Palace Station, if you're in the tower itself, it's actually a really nice hotel. It's just as nice as any hotel on the Strip. But if you're the the poor guy, for $20 a night or whatever it was, you could get a room for. You were down here in that little motel area that we're looking at off to the left, just below the main tower. And man, those rooms were disgusting. You couldn't get a smoke-free room, and I mean, it was just like I would have to spend the whole day just like sitting outside. Oh, it was awful. But when you're when you're on a flying salary, that was basically as good as it got. So, yeah. So anyway, I was talking about this roller coaster up here, and I'm a big fan of roller coasters. But man, when I rode this roller coaster that's up here, it's not there anymore. Man, that roller coaster scared the shit out of me. It made you feel like you were going to go over the edge. And I don't think the tracks are there in the scenery anymore either. Yeah, the tracks aren't there anymore. I think they probably got rid of it because either it wasn't popular or maybe they just saw it as too much of a liability. But if you ever had the opportunity to ride the roller coaster that was on top of this tower, it was freaky as shit. Because first of all, it's the highest roller coaster in the world. I don't think there's any roller coaster that's that high above the ground. And you're flying around this thing at like 70 miles an hour. And, every time you reach the edge of the building on that roller coaster, it made you feel like you were going to fly right off the edge. That is probably officially the only roller coaster in the world that scared the crap out of me. And I never did ride it again after that. That was just so freaky. But yeah, it's not there anymore. But they got this other thing up there that spins you around in circles, and it's like an arm, and it like swings you off the side of the building. That's another freaky one because it's like your feet are just dangling and you just see the ground spinning below you. I don't know. They probably got rid of that thing too, for all I know. It's been years since I've been up there. I mean, I'm talking like circa 2008 or something. So very long time ago. I wonder if they included the Gemini Jets headquarters. I'm pretty sure they didn't. It's just a regular looking office building. But Gemini Jets headquarters is here. And at one point, I owned around 300 1/400 scale model aircraft, and now I think I'm down to about maybe 30 or 40. I sold off a lot of them, and I hadn't purchased any in years. So case in point, Flight Sim Expo 2018, I went to the Gemini Jets headquarters because I had collected their models for so many years. But prior to Flight Sim Expo, I had not purchased a Gemini Jets add-on. Boy, look at the lights. This is just so incredible. I had not purchased a Gemini Jets. Why is my door open? Aircraft in about probably 5 or 6 years. I stopped collecting them and I started selling them off because a lot of these planes were just sitting in boxes. How the hell did I open that door? I don't know how I opened the door. I got 2 doors open here. I don't know how I did that. Oh, you know what? I think I need to... I gotta like look down here and use the mouse to close it, right? There we go. We want to fly safe, folks. Oops. There we go. But once I got those doors open again. That's okay. I'm not gonna worry about it. I wonder if there's no, I don't think there's a helipad up there. So I hadn't bought any of those aircraft in years, and what I wound up once I went to that Gemini Jets headquarters, I actually ran into a few other flight simulation enthusiasts that were there for the conference, and they were there hanging out as well. And the cool thing is Gemini Jets basically has this gallery room with like a DC-10 first class kind of sofa couch or something like that in there. And they have every model ever that they've ever made in this big room, like this little gallery. and they have like a little model airport set up there. And it was funny because I was in there for probably 3.5 hours, and for two reasons. Number one, because I was surrounded by like hundreds and hundreds of these airplanes, and then you had this kind of couch there, and a couple of us, this other guy that was there also looking around, we both just sat on the couch and just stared at the airplanes. And we chatted and we talked and talked about flight simulation, but it was like being surrounded by all of these planes. I mean, they had everything from their 400 scale planes all the way up to their 200 scale planes. And while we sat there and talked, I knew that I couldn't leave there empty-handed. I spent $400 that day. But anyway, so my wife, she and I, we had just pulled in. We hadn't even checked into the hotel yet. So, because as soon as I got to Vegas, I was like, I need to get straight over to that Gemini Jets headquarters. We cannot check in. We cannot get to the event. First and foremost, what's most important in my life is I got to get to Gemini Jets. So she took off. She hung around for about 20 minutes. She was like, all right, I'm going to go. You just call me when you're when you're ready to go. I said, okay, you go. So she took the car and she left, and I just sat there. And a bunch of us, we just sat there and we just stared at the planes and just being surrounded. And that's going to be my dream man cave, where I'm going to have like this hammock, and I'm just going to be surrounded by like all these model planes hanging from the ceiling on the shelves. And it was great. It was great. It was just bliss just to be surrounded by all of these little tiny planes. It was amazing. It was amazing. If you've never been, you got to go. And if you've been, then you already know what I'm talking about. But it took me a good few hours to find out what I would buy, because it's like you can only spend so much, and you want to take everything home. And a lot of the stuff that's there you can't take home because it was their original club editions, of which I own. So I own the first Braniff 747 club model, the orange, the 1/400 scale. And you can't find it for sale anywhere. You can't find it for sale anywhere. But I was able to do some Googling online, and it turns out the last person that was able to buy that plane dropped $2,000 on it. So I'm like, wow, this plane is worth at least $2,000. But yeah, the original Braniff orange 747 Gemini Jets club model. And when I bought it about 6 years ago, I think I paid like $450 for it. So it's interesting that, now it's like people will pay up to upwards of $2,000 for that model. It is, unbelievable. But anyway, so, a lot of their club models that you can't find anywhere, that you can't even buy anymore, are there. Wanted to take a look under here and see if they animated the roof of that thing, but they didn't. Okay, he didn't go that far. I had to see, though. I had to see if he went that far. He didn't go that far. Gotcha. That's okay. I'm not going to subtract any points away. But anyway, so I wound up walking away with, because I couldn't make up my mind what I wanted. And so I wound up walking away with 2 Delta jets. One being the new C Series, because I don't know, I kind of like the C Series. I think it's a cool looking plane. And they had just released the C Series molds. So I bought 2 200 scale. I bought the Bombardier C Series. I know everyone calls it a Airbus A220, but in my heart, it'll always be a C Series. It'll always be a Bombardier jet. But anyway, so I bought the Delta C Series jet. I think it's was it the 100 or the 300? I think it was a 100. And then I bought another Delta Convair CV880, and that Convair is so badass. Oh my God, that is such a beautiful plane in that classic Delta livery. It is just, it's beautiful. It haunts my dreams. So those are the 2 planes I walked away with, and I think, what did I spend for both of those planes? It was like somewhere close to the realm of, well, no, $400, because, okay, the 2 planes are like $250. And then I bought like some jet bridges and stuff because I wanted to, because I want to build a diorama. I'm actually building a diorama that I'm going to put both of those planes on. And so for the C Series, I needed the jet bridges, and for the Convair, I needed the air stairs. So when all was said and done, I walked out of there with $400. And so when she came to pick me up, she saw the bag with the stuff in it, and she was like, "Okay, what it cost? You've been in there for 4 hours." So anyway, yeah, on your next trip to Vegas, definitely stop by the Gemini Jets, and it's right off the what is it, like the southern end of the strip. Definitely stop by the Gemini Jets headquarters and just hang out. But definitely, leave your credit cards and your cash somewhere else, because There's no way you walk in there and not walk out of there with at least something. Um, it's too hard not to. So that's my little Flight Sim Expo 2018 story. All right, I guess we'll make our way over to the airport. I'm pretty sure there are elements in the scenery that I haven't shown or haven't seen, and that's okay because when you buy it or if you own it, you can kind of go on your own adventure here and kind of see the stuff for yourself. So I definitely recommend that. Going, I know there's probably Easter eggs all over the place. I know George is the one that really is more of the Easter egg guy, but I'm pretty sure if we go down in here, we'll find all kinds of stuff. So, um, yeah, I definitely recommend, going on your own and grabbing a helicopter and really touring the city or the scenery because it is absolutely amazing. But I think now it's time to work our way over to the airport. I think I see a couple of comments down there. Oh, okay. So he's saying that, okay, so I should not do the preview and apply. Okay, so let's do that. What is this here? Hard Rock has another building? I didn't know that. Interesting. Or was that Planet Hollywood I'm thinking of over there? All right, so now we're going to head over to the airport itself. And then, even though I've already done the night preview, but I guess what we can do is I can reload the textures. I mean, I see the runway lighting and everything, but let me just to make sure. Let me see. I'll go over to the helipads and land real quick, and then I'll make sure to double check. In fact, we should actually. You know what? In fact, I'm going to go back to daytime anyway so that we can see the airport. So let me do that first. Let me find where these helipads are here. And then what we'll do is I'll reapply daytime and then reapply nighttime. The reason why it's easier to do the night previews because it's hard to find that exact time where you get that perfect kind of sun just beyond the horizon when P3D lights turn on. I've said this many times in the past, and I'm just waiting on Lockheed Martin to get around to updating it. But the lights in P3D, they come on way too damn late. It's like gotta be nighttime before you see city lights. And I've said this to a couple of third-party developers as well. It would be great if they could look into a way where you can manually control when the city lights turn on. If you want all the lights on during the day, like that would be a cool option. Because depending on where you are in the world and what your time zone is, all of that stuff dictates when lights are going to turn on. And it's just really annoying because lights generally tend to turn on way too damn late. I don't know, and I think I find it to be just a little bit annoying. I'm waiting on the day that someone's gonna figure that out, where you can get user-controlled lights, or at least turn on the lights like an hour earlier than when they normally turn on. I know it's an algorithm in there somewhere. It's just no one has done it yet. All right, so I'm gonna come down here, and then I'll reapply. I'll do it the proper way and not through the time preview mode here. I'm trying to figure out where this helipad is. I'm having trouble finding it. Oh, I'm already on the ground. Okay. There's something about the eye point in Flight Simulator where I always think I'm over something and I'm not. I mean, usually when I'm flying, I'm from the virtual cockpit, but whenever I'm in a third-party mode like this, I can never seem to find like where I'm supposed to be. So I think I'm just gonna put it down here. Okay, I'll adjust the time properly, and then when I go back tonight, we'll do it the right way. Okay, so we're gonna go to. We'll go to like 5 o'clock, and then apply it properly. So I guess he's saying there's night reflections on the buildings as well. I don't know if I'm reading that properly. So anyway, I'm gonna load it up properly now just to make sure. I really wish I could talk about Flightbeam's next release and the features that come with that and reflections, but I can't. NDA and all that. But um, what I can tell you is you guys as developers are really, really pushing your skills like insane. It is just insane. The stuff that you guys are doing lately is unbelievable. Okay, so this time I believe I've applied it properly. We'll take a quick look. There's not a whole lot to see on this side of the airport, other than, well, I shouldn't say that, but these are really just the hangars and stuff. But one of the things I want to point out is the static helicopters. That is much appreciated. I'm really glad this was added because, trying to get helicopter AI, that's just a nightmare. So I'm glad that they added the helicopter AI. They added a few business jets over here, and then another thing too that I liked is they added. Oh, I'm gonna crash. Yeah, I dipped that nose down a little too far. There we go. There's the crash of today's of today's stream. Okay, let me get this helicopter in check here because this thing is all over the place. Hang on, let's rein you back in here. Another thing too, and this was always a pain in the ass back in FS9 even, trying to compile AI packages and trying to get like Signature and Janet and all that crap to show up, and then editing AVCAD files so that the planes would park where they're supposed to park. I remember with FSDT, I released a number of AVCADs to get planes to park where they were supposed to park, and I remember that being a nightmare editing all that. So the fact that is this still called Signature? I don't even know if this is still called Signature. But the fact that they added these as statics is more than good enough for me. I just want to look over and see that they're over there. So you can see here, you've got Signature, you've got Janet parked over here. And that to me is like, I'm happy with that, just to be able to see that that they're there. And of course, having the static helicopters as well. So if you have a Signature or a Janet AI package or something like that, then they've left some spots open for those AIs to park. But their static models actually look really good. And I don't necessarily need to see them taking off and landing. It's just when I'm over at the commercial terminals, I just want to see that they're over here. These are some really nice looking static models. So kudos to whomever did these statics. These are really nice. Nicely done. A lot of polygons in there, huh? Are developers, here's a question, are developers able to get away with more with their polygon count now with prepared version 4? It's just a curious question. So here we have all of the hangars. And again, not showing off too much detail. I'll let you guys go in and see for yourself. I mean, as far as my own thoughts, I'm completely blown away. I'm completely blown away that they've managed to deliver all of this for what is essentially, what did I say it was, $32? That is just absolutely incredible. Now, I think I have some of my, so as far as AI traffic is concerned, my AI traffic that I use is the Just Flight, what is it, Traffic Ultimate or something like that? I can't remember what it's called. So a lot of these statics look so good, I'm not even sure what's static and what's actually part of the AI traffic. But what I can tell from that Just Flight traffic package is they need to fix the Southwest models because there are two different kinds of blue. So I don't know how they figured that out, but they'll need to fix that. But I'm not sure if these Allegiants, if they're static or part of the AI. I want to think that they're static. Yeah, I think they're static, but they look really nice. And this is where the old international terminal was. That international terminal, by the way, was a joke. That international terminal was an absolute joke. So I'm glad that Las Vegas finally, yeah, I'm saying finally like as if they just opened it yesterday, but I'm glad that they finally opened or built a new terminal because it was awful. So what I think I'm going to do Actually, before I get out and start looking around, here's another area that I really wanted to show off, that FSDT really didn't put much effort into at all in their old version of Vegas, is this entry area around the airport. Now, everyone who knows me knows I'm a big sucker for parking lots. I don't tend to beat up on parking lots in larger cities, and large sceneries. When they're small, then yes, I do expect the parking lots to be amazing. But when they're this big, it's not that big a deal, to be honest. But where I am impressed is this entire entry area into the terminals and into the car park areas. This area is so nicely done. You have the different elevations here because this is a very hilly area. So I was really pleased to see this being done in the way that it was. Very nice. So I just wanted to show that, but now I'm going to come over here. We're going to take a look at these terminals, which, by the way, are all fully equipped with internal modeling. So I think I'm going to put it down right over here and then switch to chase plane. And I think as I move around the airport, I'll kind of come and go out of the helicopter, kind of come and go back and forth between the helicopter and chase plane. Now this one, I think, is definitely one of the AI models. All right, and we'll set it down. There we go. And I'm going to grab my trusty Xbox controller. So we'll still be able to hear our little helicopter. Oh, I need to pause track IR, don't I? Where's my pause button? Otherwise, every time I turn my head, everything's going to look wild. Let's see. Let's move that up a bit. So now we can take a look at these airport textures and modeling, which, look at that texture baking over there. That just looks terrific. And here in this case, now I don't usually have my dynamic reflection set to high. I actually set them to low. Low is enough to get rid of like that default sort of FSX poly image or whatever you want to call it, whatever that thing is called. So I generally tend to set them to low. In this case, they are set to high. And you can even see the Las Vegas buildings there in the background. There's a little vehicle driving there in that little shadow. Do you see that? And here, if we just try to take a look inside, you can see we've got advertisements in there. Those little like horizontal people movers, whatever you call those things. So quite a bit of detail inside. You can see here too. You got this some little water reflections on the ground here. I mean, this is like night and day from the Flightbeam version, obviously. This is just incredible. And you can see through to the other side. Did I say Flightbeam? I meant FSDT. I'm sorry. That was a error. Night and day from the FSDT Vegas. And I know that Umberto said that, look at that, you can see the little slot machines in there too. I know he said he was going to go back and redo Vegas, but, you know, when the original FSDT Vegas came out, a lot of people were really asking for the new international terminal. And for whatever reason, it wasn't a priority. It was never a priority. And even back then, when that version was released, the new international terminal was in development back at that time. So it was a little bit disappointing that it just really wasn't a priority, unfortunately. So I am glad that FSDT did not go back and do Vegas again, because we wouldn't be getting this level of quality. And I hate to say it, but I'm not going to be one of those that's going to, try to be diplomatic about, my feelings. I'm very passionate about flight simulation and about its products, and I'm just going to be brutally honest. That's one thing you can expect from me. And if we had gotten this from FSDT, it wouldn't be anywhere near this good. Um, the airport itself, I definitely think would be decent. The downside is that we would have that whatever that engine is that they use that makes scenery disappear. There's a lot of that stuff that just I find that doesn't usually work. So, like for example, with their Memphis and Indianapolis sceneries are really good. Their Charlotte too, really good. But I find that a lot of sometimes the airport buildings just don't show up. And I know that these are like kind of age-old complaints that a lot of people had. By the way, did Allegiant move over here? I remember they used to be over there in the other terminal. I'm assuming they moved over here, and this is where they are now. But over the years, I found that a lot of that stuff just didn't work. Oh, Javier, are you watching live? I love you, buddy. I'm looking forward to seeing you in June. Um, okay, that's why I didn't realize he was watching live. What was I saying about FSDT? I lost my train of thought. Xavier, you made me lose my train of thought for a minute there. What is those flickering textures going on over there? What is that? We got some serious Z fighting, man, and they are kung fu fighting. Yikes. This could be because of chase plane, though. Yeah, I think that's a chase plane thing. I don't think that's a scenery thing. I think when you exit chase plane in this camera mode, I remember from a while back that I think that causes it. So I think if I were to go back into the helicopter, I don't think we'd see that Z fighting going on back there. And case in point, though, getting back to my point. Wait, did they light up the inside of the jet bridge? What? There's lights inside the jet bridge. Oh my God, that's a lot of detail. Um, but I think case in point, that's why Flight Beam. I think that's why Flight Beam got off of that. Whatever that, I don't know if it's coaxial or whatever it is that they call it, but that was an issue with a lot of Flight Beam stuff too. Because I remember with Denver, sometimes I'd fly into Denver and the buildings are just gone. Like here I'm coming off a 5.5 hour flight. And I land at Denver, and the building's like, I'm on final approach, and I'm like, where the hell is everything? And all I'm seeing are these large ditches in the ground. And so I think that's one of the reasons why Flightbeam got off of it. So as far as the airport itself goes with FSDT, like the airports are great. I think the only airport that FSDT released that I was disappointed with was Houston. Houston was just a weird one. I never liked Houston. I never liked the ground poly. There are a lot of elements of the terminals were like inconsistent. In some areas it was internal modeling, but it's like you're looking inside, but there's nothing there. And in some cases it's not. And it was just really weird. I never liked their Houston. I never bought it. But their Memphis scenery is really badass. It's amazing, as well as the Indianapolis. But here's the thing with Memphis. And, the thing with Memphis was, and I don't have it installed. I own it. I don't have it installed. In fact, I think he even sent it to me. I ran into the same issues with Memphis. Buildings not showing up, or when you go to load the scenery, like, okay, so you get the progress bar in P3D, right? So the progress bar is loading, and then when it's 100% complete, but then the scenery, it's like black. I don't know if it's still that way anymore. It may have changed. I'm only talking about when it was new because I eventually gave up on it. But you would get like this black hang up for like 5 seconds before the scenery fully loaded, which was weird. And then, they had these really cool features. You can walk up the tower and do all of that. I was not able to do any of that until after like my 30th time loading the scenery because it just kept having so many problems. And then when the scenery finally did load, and then I could do a flight in and fly out of Memphis, by the time I did my first flight, I don't know where I was flying from, but I was flying in, and then there was this huge hang up, like I'm on final approach, and then this huge pause, and everything just hung up for a minute. And I'm like, wow, I was in my groove, I'm on the localizer, and then just this huge pause for like 30 seconds before. And I know Flightbeam had those issues too, because with San Francisco, you either got one big pause on final approach, or you get these micro stutters or these micro pauses. And that crap used to drive me crazy. So I know I think that's one of the reasons why Mir just kind of got off of that program. And now when I fly into San Francisco, it's smooth as butter. I'm just gliding right on into that baby, and I love every minute of it. So You know, if we were to try to compare an FSDT Las Vegas, here's where I can tell you what the difference would be, even if they updated it. You wouldn't get the city. You wouldn't get that amazing strip. And even if you got the strip, which you wouldn't get, it wouldn't be anywhere near as detailed. You wouldn't get all those fancy flickery lights and, you know, Bellagio fountains and exploding volcanoes. You wouldn't get any of that stuff. Um, you would probably get those pauses on approach, you know. And you may or may not get the autogen exclusion zone. So, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm glad that this came from FlyTampa. Another thing I'll tell you too, looking at the Southwest terminal, which in my opinion probably they could probably build a new terminal by now, but the inside of the terminal, all the way down to like the carpet and everything, like this is exactly what the terminal looks like, even from the inside. This is what it looks like. I mean, they nailed it. They just nailed it. Even from the interior, they nailed it. So I had to point that out because even the inside of the terminal, like the floor plan layout, is exactly the way it is in real life. It is just incredible. So looking at I forget what it is, my Just Flight traffic. Why are the Southwest models two different colors? Can anyone explain that to me? Like, how is it that they haven't figured that out? So I had Ultimate Traffic Live from I have it, not had it, I have it, the Ultimate Traffic Live, and the reason why I stopped using it is because their models are just so awful. Like I couldn't get over how a lot of their planes look nothing like the way these planes are supposed to look, and eventually and Flight One sent me that one. With the Just Flight version, I just bought it. I wanted to get out of that Flight One version because their models were just so unrealistic that I just couldn't bear to look at them anymore. And we have our animated tram here. Las Vegas is such a unique airport. It's like, you know, there's a part of me that says Southwest should build a new terminal here, and there's a part of me that's like, they shouldn't. They should just leave it the way it is because it just, you know, it just feels so much like Las Vegas. But anyway, oops, I didn't mean to show that. There's this van kind of hovering over here. I've already told Emilios about that. That's coming in an update. But oh my goodness, just all of the detail here is just so amazing. But here's what I love most about this is their traffic. And this is something I'd like to see Flightbeam do too, is adding their own customized traffic on the roads here. Look at these. You've got the cars making the left turn, so these cars are waiting. There's no stoplights though. That'd be cool if they actually added stoplights and you could see the lights turning red. So those cars, they just made their left turn, and now the light is green even though there's no light. Now these cars are going to go ahead and cross. This is just so... Wait, oh, that's an illegal right turn. Wait, look at him. He made a right turn out of the left center lane. Where the hell are the police cars to stop these fools? Did you see that? Oh my God, the way these people drive is... Look at that taxi cab. Look how he cut off that white van right there. He cut him off. Okay, that was realistic because taxis, they do that. But he just straight cut him off. I don't think this was by chance. Oh, look, he's going to cut him off too. Look, he's like, oh, shoot, I'm going the wrong way. And look at him. He's trying to cut in. Oh my God, this is the most realistic traffic I've ever seen in my life. Look at that asshole. You son of a bitch. Oh my God, that would piss me off. Oh my God, oh my God, that pisses me off. I am so upset by what I'm watching right here. My blood pressure. Look at this dude. He's driving up on the curb because the bus. They're all in the wrong lane, and they're realizing it at the last minute. And so they're just gonna wait and back up traffic until they can get to where they want to go. Oh, they almost crashed. That's why they disappeared. This is insane. This is so hilarious. I could sit here all day and watch this traffic. I gotta hand it to them. People do drive like that, especially in an airport. They do that shit all the time. Like they realize, oh crap, wrong terminal, and then they just stop and just squeeze over. Like this is probably one of the funnest things about this scenery. I am in love with what they did with this traffic. This is so hilarious. I gotta admit, it's quite realistic what they've done. This is terrific. Why are these billboards, these pictures only taking up like a small portion of the whole billboard though? That's interesting. Are these billboards supposed to be like, I don't know, that's weird. I don't know why it's not taking up the whole billboard. I don't know. A part of it looks like it could be solar panels or something. I don't know. That's interesting. But this is one of the things, though, also, getting back to my comparison, because FSDT, in their version of Vegas, they didn't add the tunnel. So not only did you not have these cars, not only was the roads not as detailed as you see here, but here they at least added the tunnel. And I think for FSDT, it was just photoreal. So you didn't really get the feeling that you were going over a tunnel. I think I've reached the limit of how far I can go with Chase Plane. So this is what I love about FlyTampa is just this detail. And, you know, maybe a lot of people, maybe they think to themselves, we don't need this much detail. I don't know. But I'm telling you, it would not be the same if any other developer did this. I mean, it is just fantastic. So I look at this and I think about Flightbeam because, you know, Flightbeam is so near and dear to my heart. And this is like the next level that I want to see Flightbeam do. I really, this would be my Christmas wish list for any future Christmas or birthday wish list. I want to see Flightbeam do an airport with a nearby cityscape. So, you know, FlyTampa's already taken over Vegas, but I mean, like, I'm trying to think, like, what? Like, I know I want Flightbeam to do Green State in Rhode Island because that's a favorite airport of mine that no one has done, and I want Flightbeam to do that airport. Um, but like, what is an airport that's close to a city that Flightbeam can do? I'm gonna think about that for a minute while I look at ground textures and stuff. So pretty much similar to my first live stream regarding Flightbeam Wellington. There are things that just don't really need pointing out. The ground texture is obviously amazing. Building textures amazing. Like I don't really need to point them out because they're just so well done. I mean, there's really not much that I can say that you can already see and already have that expectation that they're going to be badass, which they clearly are. Um, Obviously, the ground poly, the glass, internal modeling, it is absolutely fantastic. So there's not really much for me to say. I mean, we can talk about details on the roofs here, the ducts and air conditioning. I mean, this airport, this entire scenery right now, even though I still have to go in and do, the editorial part. This is a 5-star gold. This is a 5-star gold already. When you look at the amount of detail that's been added, when you look at the size of the scenery, and we haven't even gotten to the whole scenery, and I can already tell you it's a 5-star gold. We'll see if anything detracts from it. Like I said before, everything starts as a 5-star gold until something detracts from it. But the amount of detail and the fact that they gave you the entire, like all of Las Vegas and the Strip with all of these additional, animated signs and lights and stuff for $32. They gave this away for free. They could have easily separated Vegas and the city and charged separately for it. They did both for $32. And, I hate to say it, but it does make some other developers kind of look bad. I mean, and these are developers that I love and respect. And these are the opinions that you're probably not going to hear from another media outlet. I don't think they'd be so bold or have the balls to say what I'm going to say. But, I mean, this kind of makes Orbix look a little bad in a sense that when you look at the Gold Coast, which is, it's basically like the freaking Las Vegas of Australia. And yet it doesn't have anywhere near this kind of detail. And the fact that there's a nearby airport and they're both sold separately, almost, I think, somewhere in the realm of twice the amount you're getting from a large airport, and Gold Coast Airport is not as big as Vegas, and I understand that they're two separate developers. I totally get it, but those are two products that go together. It's like you don't want to have one and not have the other. What's the point of having the Gold Coast scenery and not have the airport? What's the point of having the airport and not having the scenery? And yet, I think the scenery is like, off the top of my head, I think alone is like $32. So they've kind of made them look a little bad. I have to admit it, because I mean, Flight Tampa's giving away a lot. Now, on the other hand, if you were to look at it from the Orbix point of view, they could say that, you know what, we just cannot afford to give away that much at such a low price, because you know how else can you make money that way? And so then you have to think, well, how the hell is Flight Tampa making money? Well, first of all, Flight Tampa already knows. I think there's no doubt in anyone's mind, this plane is gonna make a lot of fried chicken and biscuits, right? They're gonna be able to buy buckets and buckets of fried chicken and biscuits with the amount of money that they're gonna make on the scenery. So there's already no doubt about that. I'm gonna switch back to the helicopter so we can move to the other side here. We're just going to take off and fly over to the other side. So there's already no doubt about that. And naturally, the Gold Coast and that airport would not make what Vegas alone would make, just because of the popularity factor, right? So how many people around the world go to vacation in Vegas as opposed to the Gold Coast? And you know, the gold, you know, obviously it's not going to be anywhere near the same, but so I guess to play devil's advocate and try to look at things on both sides. I mean, you know, I could see the Orbix point of view in that area, especially if both of those products are developed by different developers, and maybe it's not fair that two developers would have to split. But if you're gonna charge $32, you know, and I better go to Orbix and just double check that I know what I'm talking about in terms of how much that Gold Coast scenery costs. But if you're gonna charge $32 for a cityscape scenery, then at the very least it's got to be detailed. And the thing about the Gold Coast scenery is that, yeah, you got this really terrific photo reel, which is amazing, you know. But the buildings themselves, all those skyscrapers, all those Gold Coast skyscrapers, if you're going to charge $32, they should all be modeled pretty much in the same way that Vegas is modeled here, and also the same when it goes to like the night lighting. So I'm just gonna give me 1 second, because I just want to check. I just want to check what that city scene costs, because maybe before I need to put my foot in my mouth, it's $29. So $29 versus $32 here. Oh, you know what? Oh wait, I am seeing Z fighting, aren't I? Oh wait, because I'm in chase plane, right? So I'm not seeing the Z fighting anymore. Okay, I might have to do this differently, because otherwise we're going to keep seeing the Z fighting, and I don't want to see that. That's a chase plane thing. I forgot that certain airports, because of the camera that's being used, will cause that Z fighting. So in this case, I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, and we're just going to fly around and see the textures, because otherwise we're going to see that Z fighting. So I'm going to have to fly and talk so we don't see that. But yeah, I mean, if that's what you're going to charge, then I think, yeah, I mean, you know, even like Javietsky, Seattle, like what was the cost of that, right? And I think I think that cost around the same, but yet all the buildings are detailed after the real world counterparts. There are no generic placeholder buildings. So that to me is the big difference in that case. If you're going to sell those two products independently for those prices, then at the very least you got to go for the utmost level of detail, and that is not really what I see in that case. So that's something of a big deal. So again, a lot of developers probably wouldn't be able to get away with selling an entire cityscape or city scene and what is basically almost essentially a mega airport for around that much. I mean, I get it. You know, that can't be easy to do. And then you got to look at how many people need to take a cut of this, right? So at the very least, there's 3 people. You've got Martin Emilios, and I believe his name is Sasha. But who else might have, you know, had a part in this? Ooh, these stutters are getting kind of nasty. You know what I'm gonna do? I think I'm gonna slew, because I do not want to see those stutters in the live stream. Like I said earlier, I'm reaching the limit of my GPU. Ooh, I don't want to slew up that high. Just a little bit lower, but don't hit the ground. I am starting to reach the limit of my GPU in live streaming. So without live streaming though, I get an app. Well, what was I getting before? I think I was getting around 30 FPS. Now I should also note here that in the control panel that comes with the scenery, I did activate everything to its maximum settings. They give you a lot of options of stuff to turn off, and I've turned them all on because I want it all, baby. I want every last bit of it. So I'll be able to enjoy all of it. Come on, I just want a slow, like, I don't want to go that fast. This is not the eye point that I want to be at. Hang on, let me adjust my setting real quick. So I've got everything turned on to the max, so that way at the very least we can see everything the way it's meant to be seen. Key assignments. I need a slew mode. Where is it? Slew up slowly is what I want. Slew up. I'm going to just slew around here. Where are you? Slew up slowly. And I think I'm going to put that. Oops, nope, I'm not there. I don't want that. Here. Yep, that's fine. Oh no, did you crash? Why does it keep disappearing like that? That is so weird. Okay, now I can slew up slowly. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Kind of want just that perfect eye point. The glass looks beautiful. And again, what we're looking at here is those dynamic reflections that are up high. You can even see the building or the vehicles moving around in the background there, which is nice. Oh, that's the I'm like, what is that blue light and that red light? It's reflecting the lights from my helicopter back onto the glass. I was wondering what that was. Oh, and then you have these little areas here too, going underneath the terminal. These little K rails protecting the load bearing columns here. Oh, there's just so much detail in the scenery. I still don't know how they were able to give this away. Like they could have charged $50 for this. Seriously. And a lot of people are like, DeAndre, shut the hell up. I don't want to have to pay $50. Don't give them any ideas. But like, oh my gosh, how did they afford to give this away so cheap? This is incredible. So you figure at least 3 people are involved, I think, with this. And you know what? To be clear, there it goes. Every time I try to go from full screen to window mode, it disappears. I am just curious. Really quickly, let me pull up. I want to see how many people were involved in this project. Oh, there's the wife. Hello? Hey. Hey. Uh-huh. No, we can. Yeah. Yeah. Dinner. Yeah, if that's what you want. Oh, yeah, it's Friday, huh? Yeah, we can go there. I'll live. I guess. Oh, you want their beer. Friday night is alcohol night. You need alcohol. Okay. You cannot wait another day without getting a beer and a burger. It's been a tough week. Oh, how sweet. That was sweet. Because you've been sitting on that the whole time. Oh, that's why you want to go drink. Okay. Okay. Hey, cool. Sounds like a date. Okay. Bye. I think that was a first, just interrupting right in the middle of a live stream and taking a call from the wife. That was funny. Um, um, okay. So what I want to look at really quickly is I'm looking at where is the Fly Tampa folder in here? Fly Tampa. Where's Las Vegas? Documents. Okay, here we go. I want to look at this real quick. I'm just curious. I don't know if you guys want to see this too. I guess I should pull this up. How do I do this? There should be a... Do I not have something to show my desktop? Oh, I don't have a way to show off my desktop, huh? I never thought about that. Nope, I do not have a desktop setting on here. So, let me... I need to show my desktop real quick. Or window capture. Where are you? Window, capture. Oh no, wait. Is it supposed to be just monitor capture, huh? Oops. Sorry. Window, video, display capture. I think that's it. There we go. All right. So, if I did that right. Oh, really? I gotta resize the whole damn window now. I'm doing this on an iPad, so give me a minute. I have to. OBS is running on my iPad here, so I've got to drag this thing so we can see everything. I guess that's good enough. Okay, now let's come out of there and back over here. So what I want to look at really quickly, you would think that I would have poured through the manual already, which is really bad because I usually do before starting a live stream. But I think I got too excited. What I'm looking for here, really quickly. Let me see. Am I meeting the max or the minimum settings? Yes, yes, yes. I'm not using HDR though. I'm not. You know what? I'm not. I use tomato shade, by the way, or that tomato juice or whatever that thing is called, tomato paste. And that's actually a terrific program. I'm just not a big fan of all that bloomy stuff. Are my resolutions set to 2 meters? Let me double check that. It should be. Let me take a look at my settings real quick. It usually is. Let me see. Let me just double check. Nope, that was at 5. That should be at 2. Okay. Let me go back to wherever that document we were looking at. Building density should have been at very dense. I had to pull that down because that was hitting my performance just a little bit too hard. The rest of these are okay. Okay. Some frequently asked questions. I am using the Sodi Jetways, by the way. Okay, so Giannis is his name. I was saying, what was I saying? Sasha. Where did I get Sasha from? There are a bunch of developers named Sasha. I think Sasha maybe works with 29 Palms or FSDT. Giannis. So, Giannis, please accept my humble apologies. Giannis and Emilio. So Emilios is the one that generally focuses on the airports, and Giannis is the one, if memory serves me correctly, he's the one that usually focuses more on the surrounding areas. So we've got special things from Martin and George. So what I don't remember is because the way I remember it, I think Martin started the Vegas and then he handed it off to Emilios and Giannis, but I could be wrong. But clearly, Martin and George had their ends as well. So technically speaking, it's really Giannis and Emilios. Um, but I mean, between really the two of them and the four of them, that's pretty much everyone. So, yep, that's it. So anyway, that's all I really wanted to look at. I was just kind of curious who all was involved in this one, but it's a good thing that I checked that because I'm calling Giannis. I'm referring to him as Sasha, and his name is Giannis. So I know there are two Sasha developers. I just can't think of who the two of them are. Okay, I'm gonna go back to full screen here. Wow, that keeps minimizing every time I go from full screen. That doesn't usually do that. That's really weird. Anyway, I'm gonna try to wrap this up within the next 30 minutes. The wife wants to go out for burgers and beer. She's had a tough week, and she's like, "We're gonna go do I run 3 miles, by the way, every day. I'm on this keto diet, and so I've been running 3 miles every day, trying to lose weight. So we're gonna do that run, and then she wants to go get a burger. So the good thing about the keto diet is you can eat all the fat you want and all the burgers you want, but there are a lot of things you can't eat. Oh, look at that! Look at that reflection off of that glass right there. That's just so cool. And a lot of what I can't eat are like fries and stuff, but I can go get the burger and all that, but I got to eat it out of lettuce, and I had to give up beer. Oh, I had to give up beer. But I didn't have to give up wine, and I'm more of a wine drinker than I am a beer drinker, so at least I didn't have to give that up. But anyway, so she won a bunch of money through her company, and she didn't realize that she did. So they sent her this envelope and this card, and so she'd been sitting on this card for like 3 weeks, and she didn't even realize it, and she just happened to open it today. So she's like, "All right, we're gonna go out and celebrate." So okay. That sounds like a plan. So anyway, I'm kind of slewing around here. I don't really like doing the whole slew thing, but this is probably about as smooth as I can get it. I really gotta get my GPU in check here. But anyway, as I was saying before, I don't think anyone would have been better doing Vegas than FlyTampa. If Javietsky had done it, the airport quality would not be this good, because even like if we look at Javietsky Seattle that they included in the Seattle scenery, or with it, I think they did, versus Taxi to Gate, I actually like the Taxi to Gate version better. Maybe that's just me. By the way, Taxi to Gate is not insolvent or disappeared. I spoke to Caesar, and it's still very much in development. He had to get a full-time job to help support the family. So he's moving a lot slower, unfortunately, than what they used to. You notice they were cracking out airports like candy. And the fact that he's had to get a full-time job means that things are just coming a lot slower. But was it Indianapolis? What was he working on? I don't even remember. Did FSDT do Indianapolis? I don't know why the hell I'm so confused. FSDT did Memphis and Charlotte, right? And then Indianapolis, I think, is Taxi to Gate. I don't know why I'm so confused. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. I don't even know how I got onto that topic. But I don't think the Javietsky version of the Vegas airport would be this detailed. I don't think it would be this good. If Flightbeam did it, the airport would be this good, no doubt, if not better, or somewhere around there. They would be rivaling. But not FSDT, I'm thinking of Flightbeam. My brain is starting to fall apart because I'm going over 2 hours, and I try not to go over 2 hours with live streams. So I've already talked about if FSDT had done it, and now I'm talking about Flightbeam. If Flightbeam had done it, the airport would be badass. It would not be badass in the way that it's probably FlyTampa badass. It would be badass in the way that it would be Flightbeam badass. Two different types of badass, but equally badass. But I don't think we'd get the Strip. I don't think we'd get the whole city. With Javietsky, we would probably definitely get the Strip and the whole city, but we probably wouldn't get like all of those animated billboards and signs and the way that all those buildings are lit up at night. I don't think they would have gone that far. I can't think of who else I could possibly think of to develop the scenery. Like, I'm trying to think, and no one else is coming to mind. What if Joe Erlin did it? Like the guy, the what's his name from? He releases all this stuff through Aerosoft. His work is pretty good, but I don't see him going this far with detail, and his sceneries are very detailed. Now, one thing I will say, oh crap, I'm hitting the wrong button. Sorry. Here's one thing I will say. So this animated traffic that FlyTampa has done, this is one of the things that really made this scenery. And it may seem trivial and not that big a deal, but they really did something unique and different here with this damn traffic that is just so impressive to me. I would like to see Flightbeam get into something like this. Not necessarily with the behavior of these cars, even though it's so funny watching them, but it's nice to see traffic actually utilizing the entrances to the airport. So, for example, if we look at Flightbeam Portland, right? I would like to see traffic like this driving around the arrivals and departures part of the airport. I would like to see that. If we come down here, we see that, you know, there's a lot of detail down here as well. I don't think their little traffic doesn't come down here. But yeah, that's something I would like to see. Another thing that I would like to see is, and this is something that I miss with AES, you have all these airfield vehicles crossing an airport or crossing active taxiways. They used to stop. We don't have AES anymore in P3D. But I like the thought of those vehicles stopping when you're crossing, when they're, you know, trying to cross an active taxiway or something like that. So that's something that I would definitely like to see developers adding as well. Another thing that's missing, you know, if you were to ask me, okay, what's one more thing that you could add to this airport that it doesn't encompass, is I'd like to see some animated people flow in the terminals. So we know that FlyTampa already has its own like people flow technology. I think people flow is a trademark of Orbix, but for the sake of trying to find another way to coin it, you know, animated people. We know that they. Why am I not going up here? We know that they have the technology already because we've seen it, and I know that in the case of, I think maybe Toronto, you see a few of them out on the ramp. Did we see any of those people out on the ramp here? I think they're in Amsterdam too. I don't know if I saw any people out here. I know that I activated everything in that library thingy, that control panel, but I don't think I see them here, unfortunately. But I would like to see some of those static people flows inside the terminals. That's something, and I thought of that because that's something that Joe Erland does, or is it Yo Erland? And it's something that's really nice to see when you're on the flight deck. It's just that, you know, those little things that help the scenery come to life. It's just, you know, little things like that. And I know I mentioned that with Flightbeam as well. And I know that it's something that Mir said that he was planning for the future. And it could be that they're just working on it. As far as FlyTampa, I just don't know why they didn't include it, because they definitely have the technology already in place. It also could have been a matter of, you know, not necessarily feature creep or overkill or anything like that, but it probably could just be a matter of adding too much that could drag a system down. But it's one of those things that could always just be added as an added feature, something like that. Look at that! Look how these vehicles just cut each other off. It's funny because it adds character to the scenery. This scenery has a lot of character, and it really does. It just comes to life. All right, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to take a look at the night lighting, and then I'm going to start to wrap it up. Because they're going to be home soon. Is that a helicopter? What the hell? That's not a helicopter, is it? Wait a minute. I got to see what I'm looking at here. That's an airplane, right? Is that an airplane or a helicopter? That's an airplane, right? That's an airplane. For a minute there, it looked like a helicopter because of its the way it was flying. I was going to say, is there an AI helicopter somewhere that I didn't know about? Okay. Here we go. Take a look at this new control tower, by the way. I didn't realize that they knocked down the old control tower. I didn't even notice it was gone. The new tower looks very nice. And I like the texturing, too. This looks like a almost like a marble texture or something like that, which looks really nice. So okay, let's switch to the night textures. Again, the live stream is only meant to really supplement um, the full review. And I'm working on so many reviews in the background. That's why you haven't seen much news from me lately, is because this website is not so much news driven as it is really reviews and stuff and podcasts. Okay, so I'm going to use the time preview function so I can find out what time I want to go to. So I can choose the right time. That looks like a good time right there. Let me see, a little bit brighter. We'll go to right about there. So preview time is 7:38 p.m. Okay, so world, time and season. We're going to go to 7:38 p.m. Really? That's not right. Is it? Okay, we're about to find out. I don't think it is, but okay, maybe it is. Let's see. We're going to find out really quickly. Let's see, we're going to try to wrap this up within the next 15 to 20 minutes. This is a long live stream. Of course, this scenery definitely deserves it. So, yeah, getting back to the point, I am really glad that it really was FlyTampa that did this scenery, because I don't think anyone would have done it anywhere near this good with this amount of features. So I am so impressed. This was the Las Vegas that we were hoping we were going to get back in like 2007 when, or 6, or whenever the FSDT Vegas came out. This is the one. This is what we had been waiting so long to get. And it's beautiful. I mean, whenever I think about what are my top favorite sceneries of all time, Flight Beams, Denver and San Francisco. I'm not going to say where, but they sit in the top, in that top 5. And Vegas just bumped itself up somewhere within the top 2. So this is just incredible. This is absolutely incredible. I can't believe how well this is done. I was thinking about what is because I want to see Flight Beam do a cityscape, because we all know it would just be insane. It's like if pigs had wings. Like, we all know they would taste just freaking amazing if they had wings, right? So, could you just imagine, like, if Flight Beam did a cityscape along with an airport scenery, that would be like eating a pig's wings. That's the thing that doesn't yet exist, that we know if it did exist, it would be unbelievable. Wow, you can see, look at that sun reflecting. Is that the sun? That's pretty bright. Where is that light coming from? That's a pretty bright light, because I know if I go this way, I'm going to go straight through the terminal. Oh, are those the terminal lights that are reflecting off of there? Yeah, those are the terminal lights. Man, those lights are bright. Wow. Look at that PBR lighting, by the way. Man, that just looks insane. I mean, I know that, X-Plane is is really the next generation simulator. People that I know that were never fans of X-Plane, they really talk about how it just feels like, a new generation simulator. I have yet to really experience all that, because I just don't have any space on my hard drive for X-Plane right now. But actually, you know what, though? I want those buildings lit in the background. I didn't realize that they weren't lit. I'm going to cheat just a little bit, because I want those buildings lit up. I think the timing, there we go. It's still the timing. Some lights turn on sooner than others. That definitely seems to be the case. But still, I mean, P3D has still come so far that, I mean, it still looks freaking amazing. I know that nothing can compare to the night lighting in X-Plane, like, totally. And I know that if FlyTampa exported this airport to X-Plane, it would look unbelievable. I don't know how well it would perform, but I know that it would look better than anything ever made. I know that. And I know more and more developers are really starting to look at X-Plane. But this just looks absolutely amazing. I mean, this is killer. This is so killer. This was the Vegas we were waiting for. So anyway, back to my pigs with wings, those fried pig wings. I'm trying to think what would be an airport that Flightbeam could do, because I just I can't get off of this, because we all know it would be unbelievable if they did it, right? But what is an airport that they could do? I'm trying to think U.S., because Flightbeam does tend to stick in the U.S. I'm trying to think, like, what is a U.S. airport that's close? You can't do Boston. And actually, FlyTampa Boston, I actually have to admit, that was a disappointment for me. George is not... Oh, look at that. You see that PBR lighting there on that little puddle on the ground over there? Look at that, by that jet bridge. That's nice. I was disappointed that George didn't actually include downtown Boston to go with that, because that is a perfect example. And my disappointment would be equal with Wellington in a sense, if not even more so, because those buildings is like, I mean, that's the first thing you see. They're like literally, those buildings are pretty much inside the airport perimeter. They're so close. When you take off, depending on which runway, you're taking off straight at those buildings, or you're landing straight into them. So it's just crazy that he didn't include that, because that's 50%, in my opinion, of the experience of flying into Boston. So that was a really big disappointment that FlyTampa didn't. I know I'm beating the hell out of people lately, aren't I? But that was a big disappointment with Boston, is that wasn't done. To be absolutely honest, because those buildings are closer to the airport than I think the Strip is to Vegas Airport. So I see that as kind of a big deal. But what's another city that has... I'm trying to think, what's another city that has an airport that's really close to, like, its metropolis city center? You know, can't do Vegas or San Diego. That's been done. Seattle has been done. What hasn't been done? Why am I drawing a blank here? Think, McFly. Think. Oh, damn. What about Europe? Is there any? No, not really, huh? I'm like, could it be? Have they all been done already? I have to think about what is an airport that Flightbeam could do, that they could do something like this. That would be like the ultimate Christmas present for everyone. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I can't even think about what airport that might be. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys might have some pretty good ideas. So okay, so before I wrap up, just get some up close look at this PBR and these reflections on the terminal. I mean, I'm just gonna pause it because I know it looks a little bit stuttery, but this is one of the most beautiful airports I've ever seen. So really, my top two airports. I won't lie. I mean, I have my top five, but my top two mega airports. My favorite is San Francisco. I know that I don't really usually share that stuff, but my favorite is Flightbeam San Francisco. I think Las Vegas. It's like it's between Flightbeam San Francisco and Las Vegas as my top two favorite all time. It's tough. It's a hard one. It really is a hard one. It's a hard one. Because both of these, I mean, as far as like the quality of the airport, and I mean, but you got this huge like coverage area, and it feels like Vegas. For the first time, we have a scenery that feels like Las Vegas. If you've been here, if you've lived here, this is what Las Vegas, it really truly looks and feels like. And I mean, they captured it, but when you go wandering on over to the Strip, it's like the way that it comes to life is unlike any other scenery that's ever been developed. It really is. I can't get over this. It's like, is this my favorite scenery of all time? This is going to be a struggle. If you go back, and you'll still find it, you know, the last time I was in a conundrum like this is when Flightbeam released Denver, and I wrote a really, really long-winded review on Flightbeam Denver. And in the case with Denver, I was in this same sort of um, dilemma, trying to figure out like, wow, did Denver just become my favorite like all-time airport? And it did at the time until Flightbeam surpassed it with San Francisco. Um, but I mean, when you take into account the airport and the entire city scenery, I mean, even this even surpasses Dubai because you know the Dubai Strip, aka Sheikh Zayed Road, it doesn't come to life in the same way that Vegas does. Even from the airport, you see those signs flashing. I think that's the MGM sign. This is just so realistic. I mean, this is unbelievable. This is so unbelievable. So I still have a lot in terms of putting my thoughts together um, for the written review. I'm still working on Wellington. I'm working on a lot of stuff right now, but this has just completely blown me away. This has completely blown me away. So Yanis, Emilios, Martin, George, the Fly Tampa family. I mean, you guys have nailed it. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I think I found something. Boom. I'm like, find something that's wrong with the scenery. I think I found it. I might have found it. I'm trying, because I'm trying to find something wrong with the scenery. I think I found it. Like, please let me walk away with at least something to say that wasn't done. Look at that. This just looks amazing. Holy crap, they really nailed this. Little slot machines. I wonder if that's the first thing they modeled for Las Vegas. It's like, okay, I'm going to do Las Vegas. The first thing I'm going to model is a slot machine. um, there are some features coming out in Flightbeam's next release, and I can't talk about it, but the features that are coming in that release is going to outdo anything that's ever been done before, as far as I know, which is incredible. I can't wait to do my live stream of that. So looking at this, though, okay, so we've got, this building does not seem to have any lights. Ooh, Xavier says Flightbeam Philadelphia. There you go, buddy. There you go. Okay, I can see that. And you know what? Aside from that freeware Sunsky Jet Philadelphia that we've been sitting on forever, that's a thought. That is certainly a thought because it's time that, you know, I think that airport, I don't think that Sunsky Jet Detroit is even going to be released. So I think at this point, any developer that wants to do Detroit, I think y'all need to just do it because that freeware has been in development forever. And the last that I think Shez pointed out is that the primary developer on that scenery is just it's not a priority. So somebody's got to jump on Detroit and somebody's got to jump on Philadelphia. And I think that Philadelphia skyline with that airport, I mean, the skyline is further away from the airport, but it's a thought. It is definitely a thought. So anyway, looking at here, there's no lights here. And there doesn't appear to be any lighting in the car park. I'm just going to adjust this by hand real quick. I don't see, because these car parks at the car park at night, you really do see the lighting from the car park from the airport. It's like this bright orange colors, and they didn't light the car park. Unless I've done something wrong, these car parks are well lit at night. And not only are they well lit, but I believe there are lights that shine up onto the car parks that light them up at night. So it's one of the most vibrant things you see at the airport at night are the car parks. In fact, even more so, really quickly, I want to see if I can pull up a picture of the car park at night online real quick. Let me see if I can find one. Let me see if I can find an image of those car parks at night. Oh, here's one. Is this one? That's one, but that image is too small. I need a bigger one. These are kind of hard to see, but they should give you an idea. So looking at these car parks and how dark they are, unless maybe I need to do, let me just reapply in the time preview. I just want to make sure, because these car parks are lit. They are super bright at night. Let me see, time and season. I'm just going to go to night. I'm just going to go to 8 o'clock or 8:50, whatever. I just want to make absolutely sure that I didn't apply the time incorrectly. Oh, Ergino says that they just released a new preview screenshot. Okay, that's good. Because the last time I checked with Sunsky Jet, that would have been about maybe a month ago. And I looked in the forum and people were like, what's going on? And Shez was like, yeah, well, so-and-so is like, I don't know what's going on with him, or, you know, something's going on in his personal life. I don't remember what I read, but basically what I surmised from what Shez wrote is that the main developer on that project is just, you know, busy with other things, or something to that effect. So um, I'll head back over to Sunsky Jet and check that out. I remember when that Philadelphia was in development and people were getting outraged because it took them like 6 years. And that's too long. Even for freeware, that's too long. And no payware developer should hold out for a freeware developer if they're going to take the better part of half a decade to release an airport. I say do it. And that Detroit, as beautiful as it looks, I mean, you have to keep in mind it's been in development for like 4 or 5 years, so that already makes it 4 or 5 years old before it's even released. So, I mean, there are a few things to take into consideration with something like that. So yeah, there is no lighting here. So this would be a detractor. This would go from 5 stars, like almost 4.5, or 4 point, what is it, 8 or 9. Sorry. Because those car parks are so bright. So if I just switch, I'm just going to go to Google here real quick. I got to pull this up on my iPad. So if we go here, even though it's hard to see the car park, this is the car park right here on your screen. Look how bright that is. And there's some more car parks over here. They are extremely bright. These are the car parks here. These pictures are really small. I'm trying to find one where you can really see those car parks, and you can see, there's the old tower. You can really see how bright they are. Here's a shot of the car parks. You know, it's like this bright orangey color. And you've got lights that are like that reflect that orange. You see them from everywhere. This is the new car park. I don't know, maybe if I Google like Las Vegas airport car park, maybe we can find, here's a shot, here's a couple shots. Well, that's not a very good one. But you can see here, like they are really like this bright orangey color. That's the new one. I don't think I can find any more showing that car park at night. It's kind of hard. But if you've been to Vegas, if you've flown into the airport at night, or even from your hotel room on the strip facing the airport, there's no mistaking those car parks. They are really, really bright. They are very bright. So that is something I don't really see any more pictures of the car park, unfortunately. But this gives you an idea of how bright they are at night. And if we go back to P3D, we can see that it's just really like dead. So that's something that I think needs to come with an update. As far as the review goes, I still need to pour over the scenery a little bit more. We'll go back here. So that's really the only thing so far, at least in the live stream, that I've found. What about the new car park, out of curiosity? I'm just curious. Just before I end here. Yeah, the new car park doesn't seem to be lit that much either. You got these cute little lights on here. But even from the pictures we saw, it looked like it was still lit a little bit brighter than that. But there is no mistaking the Las Vegas car parks. Like, this whole area is so dark. Now, they did light this up, though. I didn't see this earlier. So this is really cool. I actually love that. This is very cool. This the rainbow lighting here. And even on these little, whatever you call these little designs on the side, those have lights on them. But this whole thing should be bathed in a bright orangey color. So I actually love that they did that. That actually looks really neat. But yeah, this whole thing is bathed in a big orangey color, and there's no mistaking it from anywhere where you're at. It shouldn't be anywhere near this dark. So that's the only thing that I found so far, at least in today's live stream. So I'll point that out to Emilios. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Obviously, I still have more coverage of the scenery. This thing jumped the gun because there's like 4 of the airports in the queue for live streams that I haven't been able to get to just yet. But since this was just released and I'm trying to get myself back on the ball of getting these live streams released within 24 to 48 hours of a release, and Vegas being as big as it is, and given how much I've covered this product over the years, I just really wanted to jump in and show it off and share my thoughts and feelings on it. But I still have a lot more to kind of cover here. So same thing with these parking lots too. Like with these parking lots here, it's like looking at the ocean at night and floating cars. So in this case, I'm surprised that the terrain isn't also kind of lit in kind of a bathe orange color for the PR. Like the photo reel isn't really lit up over here. Probably not that big a deal. But this whole car park area is just far too dark. I love those lights though. I love those lights. Those that just looks absolutely amazing. But yeah, the whole car park needs to Christmas tree its ass out and right quick. Because that whole area is just so dark. I don't know why it's so dark. That's interesting. This whole area down here actually is yeah, it's pretty dark. Let me see. That's not that big a deal, but let me just check one more thing. Yeah, so this is all lit. Just wanted to make sure you could see how well lit this was as well at night. Yeah, that's fine. So everything else is great. So anyway, I have a lot more picking and digging around to do, but we are 2 hours and 33 minutes into this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But just want to say thanks to everyone who actually did join. I was really just expecting... oh, really? Detroit should be in beta next week? Holy crap. Well, that's great news. Okay, I'll go check that out right now. But anyway, thanks for joining me on the live stream. I thought I'd be talking to myself this entire time. So as these things start to build up and, start to get back to where I was before, I'm getting there. It's kind of a slow and steady process, but I've got so many ideas and only so much time to get them all out. But for the most part, this is just... I'm like on the fence. I think this is my favorite scenery. I don't know. This is crazy. Look at the wheels on this truck. Do you guys see that? Wait, is he going to drive off again? Holy crap, the wheels on this truck were animated. Whenever we see cars driving around, they're just like objects. Wow, look at that. And the front wheel turns. Look at that, look at that, look at that. What the hell? What? Look at that. And then he just disappeared. Okay, that was funny. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Keep an eye out at fl350.net for the full review. And that's it. I'm pretty much going to call it. I got to go get ready for my run, and I'm going to go get a burger. And yeah, this is so exciting. What a beautiful airport. FlyTampa, you did it. You delivered like you always do. Look at that Southwest there. There's no logo on the tail at night. This AI traffic program from Just Flight needs a lot of work, obviously. There she is, folks, Las Vegas. We finally got her. I know that they're still working on updates and stuff, and I'll update as the updates come along. But, man, am I so happy we finally got this airport. Just absolutely amazing. So well done. Congratulations, guys. You did it. For those of you who don't have it yet, go buy it. You want it, even if you don't know you want it. And if you already own it, you already know what I'm saying. So with that said, thanks so much for tuning in. This will be on the YouTube, the YouTube page. Should be up on YouTube a couple of hours from now. And other than that, I am out of here. So thanks for hanging out with me, and enjoy Las Vegas. It is terrific. I'm out of here. See ya, everybody.